Good afternoon. Today is Friday, the 23rd of May, 2025. We're a little bit after 1 o'clock. Welcome to UK Column News. I'm your host, Brian Gerrish. Delighted to have with me in the studio, Patrick Henningsen.
Great to be with you, Brian.
Okay, excellent. And we've also got Mark Anderson joining us from the United States by live video link. Now, we've got an interesting mix of news for you today because we're going to be having a look at what seems to me at least to be the rush towards deeper war with the Russians. And of course, Britain and the BBC at the lead of that charge. We're going to be having a look at relations between, or what Americans are thinking about Israel. We're going to be having a look at Trump's comments in relation to South Africa. And we've also got an update on that mysterious political advisor that we mentioned on Monday, Charles Smith. And Mark Anderson is also going to be covering a little bit on the Trilateral Commission, one of the powerful agencies at work helping drive global political policy. So I think this is going to keep us busy, Patrick. So let's kick off with how the BBC views the world. And here we've got their report, which was clearly delighted that the Germans are now putting troops into Lithuania. I'll just put a little banner over this. The German troops are to be sent permanently to Lithuania's eastern border. Now, if we just play this little video clip, we can have we can get a little bit of a feel for the pomp and ceremony about the Germans arriving back in Lithuania. And then we're going to show some other clips and comment on what the reality of the history, the relation with the German army in Lithuania is. But let's see the pomp and ceremony. Well, Patrick, great music, uplifting as the military get onto the eastern flank of NATO. And to my mind, this is another provocation of the situation with Russia. Don't know whether you've any immediate reaction to seeing those happy troops on the ground and the cheerful music.
No, I can only say that the Baltic states are among the most virulent anti-Russian forces right now within NATO and the European Union.
Yeah, so what have we got going on? Well, let's have a look at how the BBC reported this arrival of the German troops.
I'm on a German military plane heading to Lithuania because Lithuania is where Germany is in the process of setting up a brigade there in response to Russian aggression. And this is a big deal for Germany because it will be the first permanent foreign troop deployment it's done since World War II. Display by the German army in a country the Nazis once occupied would have been almost unthinkable not long ago. Germany's been seen as a country with an underfunded military and a nation too that's almost allergic to showing military might because of its past. But now the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz says he wants Germany to have the strongest conventional army in Europe as a way of deterring future aggressors.
Peace in Europe has been broken. Each and every day, Russia is violating the order that we collectively adopted as a lesson from the horrors of the Second World War.
Lithuania is on what's known as the eastern flank of the NATO military alliance. A small country, it borders Belarus, Moscow's ally, and the Russian exclave, Kaliningrad.
Well, there we are. Another happy BBC video, clearly delighted that the German troops are back in Lithuania. And there was the underlying reason, because those nasty Russians have upset our order. If you listen to what the Chancellor was saying there, the order that's been established by the West. Nobody can touch that. So the German troops now going overseas. This, in my mind, is a very, very dangerous escalation of the situation in Eastern Europe. But the BBC absolutely not concerned about it. Now, I've got another little video clip here about Lithuania. This is going back to the Nazis in Lithuania. If you want to, or you feel the need, look away, because there's some very, very upsetting images in this clip. But I think we need to put it on screen to understand why the average person in Western Europe should be very concerned about what Germany is now up to with the full support of UK and the European Union. Let's have a look at this little clip.
Then, in the summer of 1941, the Germans invaded the Soviet Union and occupied Lithuania. Many of the local citizens collaborated with the Nazis, and within 6 months, 50,000 of the 70,000 Vilnius Jews were killed.
So we make no apologies for putting that little clip up, and of course we could put up a lot more material about the horrors that went on in Lithuania as a result of the Nazi German troops on the ground. But for the BBC, what happened to the Jewish population, and indeed what happened to the population of Lithuania as a whole, that's of absolutely no concern. The BBC is thrilled to have the German army back on the ground. Patrick, as I put this section together, the arrogance and I run out of words really to describe the BBC and what's going on here. How can anybody be elated that we've got Germany now talking about building a substantial army and getting into Lithuania to ramp up the tension with the Russians? It's madness.
Well, you say you've run out of words, Brian, but the BBC provided those words for you. Did you hear the reporter on the ground? She said, what was once unthinkable? Well, it's still unthinkable, but unthinkable once is past tense for the BBC. But for normal people, for people who live in that region, people who remember the legacy of the Second World War, it is still unthinkable. And Frederick Merz said that Russia has broken the peace in Europe. What did NATO do to Yugoslavia, by the way, in the 90s? Where does that come into that equation?
Do you want to start with the bombing, or should we just...
Well, how about 75 days of bombing Belgrade straight, and then partitioning countries and drawing borders? And then what about the Minsk peace process that was confirmed by the UN Security Council that Britain, France, and the other major powers all agreed to unanimously? They let that lapse intentionally. We have that on record. And what about NATO expansion? What about commitments made by previous governments in the U.S. and so forth not to expand eastward? Maybe NATO broke the peace in Europe. Is that a controversial statement?
Well, it absolutely is a controversial statement, Patrick, because you're not allowed to say it. And although I've been a huge critic of Nigel Farage in many areas, when Nigel Farage talked about this publicly, he was vilified for daring to suggest that maybe NATO policy was wrong. And here we are now. The fighting hasn't stopped in Ukraine. We're ramping up the tension. BBC delighted those German troops are going overseas. But I'm going to encourage our viewers, if you really want to understand the horrors of German troops in Lithuania and other countries on the eastern flanks of the European Union, just simply look at some really excellent documentaries online. It's truly astonishing. Now, I just wanted...
One last thing,
Patrick.
Brian. They didn't show in that last historical film you showed, which was excellent, but it left out something, Brian. You know what that was? The ending. How did it end for the Germans after Operation Bagration? It didn't end well for Germany, did it?
A destroyed country
and Europe.
And Europe, and millions dead. You're absolutely right on that. Let me just add this, because this is the way that the UK is crowing about this very dangerous situation. I've put in this headline here: great news for UK. We're going to ramp up the war. We're going to build EU defence unification. This is something many people thought had gone away. But of course, it was Brexit without the exit. And now Germany is allowing the UK to build the gun barrels for this future war that these people are trying to create. What am I talking about? Well, first of all, I'm just going to bring in this. Look at the colours that are being used in order to report sanctions against Putin. This is like Nazi Germany, the stamp, the red and the black, and the Russians to be attacked. This is a report from, this is Defence HQ Twitter stream, where they're talking about the wonderful rise of the UK-EU security and defence partnership. A UK column warning and warning and warning about this over many years. And of course, it never went away. It's now broken surface. And here's the, beg your pardon, let's come through those again. Let's come to this, which a little bit of a technical issue here. See whether we can do this. Will it behave itself? No. I don't know why that is. The last of those slides is actually saying that the German company Rheinmetall is going to help little UK to build gun barrels. So no real jobs and expertise for British companies. We're going to use a German company in UK to build the gun barrels for this future war. Patrick, outrageous.
Have we learned anything from the last 80 years? That's the fundamental question.
Well, I'm going to say I have, but I'm not sure the BBC has at all.
Yeah, with the royal we mean, right?